gas prices get higher and higher. When government officials are asked about it, they said this is the transition to green energy. And of course, one of the big beneficiaries of that is going to be battery metals and silver, as there's this move towards quote unquote renewable that we're seeing surface more and more. So we have a supply squeeze that you can clearly see out over the next decade, especially for silver. And then recently, the G7 countries announced a ban on Russian gold, which is 11% of the annual output. It's a significant amount when you're talking about central banks buying and being net buyers of gold, especially in G7 countries. We might be seeing a similar type of squeeze coming down the line from that in gold over the next 10 years as well. Here to discuss this is my friend Mike Konnert. He is the CEO and founder of Vizsla Silver, one of our favorite silver and gold mining stocks, Vizsla Silver. So I'll link Vizsla Silver website right there down below where you go ahead and check them out. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you let us know in the comments, smash the like button on this video. And Mike, good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I myself, I was saying before the air, there's been so much uncertainty in the global economic system, mainstream stocks, mining stocks. And at this point now that it's dragged on with these interest rates rising and recession, I am kind of getting excited about buying potential in mining stocks. So I'm feeling pretty good right now, to be honest with you. I'm feeling pretty excited.
Yeah. Well, the last time, simply put, this is where you make the money in these stocks, right? You make them buying at these lows, and, all you got to do is go back to 2008, 2007, and March 2020, and, various different dips like that to see, look at the charts and see what the stocks do after this type of sell-off happens. So I think, yeah, you're right. This is an excellent time to be buying them. And, it's a huge opportunity. The last time that this happened for me, I went all in March of 2020 and made an absolute fortune. So this is good timing.
It's funny you said that, because I had said in an interview with Rick Rule that my biggest regret was I bought during the March 2020 sell-offs, but that was the first massive sell-off I'd ever seen, investing a significant chunk of my capital. And I honestly was a little afraid to invest. I should have invested a lot more than I did. And it was my first experience where it was confusing to see the prices of stock so out of distortion with the value. And it kind of confused me and scared me a little. And I bought a lot, but I should have bought way more. Yeah. And I said to Rick, I feel like an idiot, honestly, because I didn't think we'd get another opportunity like this. I didn't think you'd see silver stock as low as it is, or a uranium stock where it is right now, and having that kind of blood in the street type of feeling. And so I feel like I might be getting close to one of those opportunities again. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, you brought up a couple of interesting things. Now, fortunately, that the G7 ban, the shortage on gold, I think that was bullish news for gold, but overall, it's being eclipsed by the relative strength of the US dollar. The DXY index is still showing a pretty strong chart. And so I think, even though there's all this bullish noise for gold happening, it's just not really beating the interest rate hikes and the kind of the melt up in the value of the US dollar just yet. But that'll happen. And there's one thing that I know, and it's an inevitability that the gold price and the silver price will go higher from here. It doesn't make any sense that, we could have record debt levels, record inflation, and, an economy that's in trouble. And, the precious metals, the safe haven trade isn't really connecting right now. So it's going to happen. This happened in 2020 and 2008 as well. But if you look at the charts afterwards, it was the craziest wealth generation happens from that bottom, to the subsequent top, where the same group of generalists are interested in these stocks that they'll never, they don't care at all right now. That's the time to be buying them. So, it's definitely an interesting time, but I do know it's just an inevitability before this becomes topical again.
Now let's go to the macro. The G7 announced ban on Russian gold. It's like 11% of annual supply. Someone's going to buy that, right? China, India, Iran, Brazil's probably, you're going to get buyers for that. And so then it just makes only 89% of available gold supply to G7 countries. And you could see how that kind of compounds as well. But just from a pure news standpoint, was that something you expected? I just thought it was very bizarre to even see that. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth with regards to the value of gold, whether it's, if it's really just a pet rock, why do they care? So I think it just shows that that gold does have its place in this economy. It is a store of value, but countries like Canada probably have a hard time reconciling that after selling all of our gold reserves in 2016 at the very bottom. So it is interesting. I think for me, it just certifies and demonstrates that gold is, an important part of the mixture of the world economy, and it is real money.
I am doing my best to apply the wisdom that I've learned, just specifically from Rick Rule. I feel pretty lucky that I basically just, get to rap with them, at this point, many, many, many dozens of hours through these cycles of ups and downs and these moves. And I can see how my emotions getting the better of me, I could have made more money. And now hindsight 2020 right here, or 2022. And rationally, when you see commodities in general, metals in general, they should be moving higher. But then you've got this entire recession, inflation, people unsure about the economy now. They're saying interest rates are going to rise. I feel there may be a little bit more pain, but soon here, interest rates will be forced to be reversed, if nothing more than for a political agenda. At that time, I believe that that's when you see a pretty dramatic move in pretty much everything. What's your take on that? What do you think will cause the Fed to reverse course on interest rates? Will what they're doing working to slow inflation? And where do you think it goes from here?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I wonder about the lag time it takes, from the money printing to to inflation. So I don't know, are we topping out on inflation? Maybe the rate of increase of inflation increasing might be slowing down, but to be honest, I think that I don't think it's transitory. I think it's with us here. So I think it's kind of in the system now in terms of inflation. Now, that being the case, are they able to demonstrate that, okay, the rate hikes worked, let's back off now? If that's the case, I think, obviously that impacts the real rate of return for gold, beating inflation as a hedge. And that becomes more attractive for people that are looking at it strictly on the finance level. But I do think that there's going to become a point in time shortly that that they'll reverse course on the rate hikes, and that like you said there, I think that'll be a potential inflection point. But it's going to be something, and it could also just be a black swan event. That there's a lot of things happening right now that I just saw actually right before we jumped on that another Bitcoin dealer or exchange has gone into Chapter 11. So that's been happening a lot, and haven't been hearing a lot about that in the secular news. But those things are whenever you have a phenomenon that's so taken up by the investing public that it becomes ubiquitous in the time. These bankruptcies aren't nothing. This is destroying a significant amount of capital. So unfortunately, these things are processes, and it takes time basically for the cycle bottom to get in. It takes time for people to psychologically switch over to gold. But all these things are leading into this, really. I mean, it's the rolling over of the US dollar, I think, is imminent. The rate hike cycle, perhaps being reversed is likely imminent. Inflation is a part of us now. It's it's not going away. And we're seeing the alternatives to gold, like the Bitcoin and crypto exchanges, blowing up. At some point, gold just being a metal that you put in a safe is going to be its biggest attribute, and it will have no counterparty risk, and it'll be very attractive. And I think that'll be a driver. But of course, unfortunately, when you're in these cycles, you can look back after and say, oh yeah, I should have just bought more in that when it hit the low point there. But it never feels good when you're in it. So it's all about, like you were just talking about, kind of just taking emotion out of it and buying things that you think have real value right now when they're on sale.
It's wild to really think about how much your own mindset and your own strategies and your own emotions, especially investing in commodities and mining stocks in general, which are quite volatile. And it's interesting to see how the different ways that your mindset, emotions, and strategies guide you ultimately dictate, really, in this industry, how much money you make. And looking back at, for instance, March 2020, where some people sold, other people bought more. Some of those people that sold bought later in August after silver goes to $28. Then they sell when it goes. And so just by the roadmap you're taking through all of this incredible turbulence in mining stocks, but also in this broader environment where you suggested where we're in this teetering on an edge where a black swan can come. So this turbulent, uncertain time, then the question is, well, what are the best keys and strategies and mindsets to succeed right now? Firstly, as a mining stock investor. Second, as just an individual, an entrepreneur. And you and Craig Perry, for those that don't know, co-founder of Vizsla Silver with Mike, and had, other great successful businesses together. But Craig's, one of the most successful financiers in commodities and mining stocks that's alive today. And he doesn't go out and brand himself and do a lot of interviews. So he has a wealth of knowledge as well. And I want to know, Mike, between things you've learned, mentorship from Craig, things you've learned from your own experience, what are some of the most important strategies, things you guys are adopting at Vizsla Silver? What are the most important strategies, tools, mindsets in order to succeed right now?
I think probably the biggest thing is in these times right now is don't take anything personally, and try to keep the ego down. Those are the kind of the big ones. The ego thing is probably more when things are going really well, of course, but the taking things personally. I talk to so many investors and friends of mine that, my whole life is kind of centered around this. So when these things blow up, it can be pretty devastating. A lot of people I know, will take things personally and they'll kind of lash out or it can cause a lot of problems in their personal life. And, if you don't have your personal life in good shape, it makes everything else a lot harder. So, I think being able to separate, the kind of emotions and, taking the noise out of these market collapses when they happen and realizing that it's kind of happening to a broader suite of companies. And there's really not a lot you can do. You have to just kind of resign yourself to the fact that, it's going through a cycle and, there's opportunities. That's kind of a mindset thing, right? It's okay. Well, I can't change what's happened here, but I can only control how I react within this in this set of circumstances. I think that's an important lesson that, we often try to instill, with our companies. A lot of what we do with Inventa is really kind of mentor and guide, incubate management teams as well. So, a lot of times people say, well, I was supposed to do this at that time. And I say, well, that market's not here anymore. And we're in this market. So all we can do is kind of do the best with what we have. So those are kind of, I don't know if those are esoteric principles or stoic principles or whatever they are, but, there's a lot of that. And the other thing, of course, is, for me, it's just the whole business seems to be really about people. It's good people find good projects, and working with people can create and unlock value. So in that case, it pays to be a guy with no ego, I think, as well, because that egos always end up getting in the way of progress, I find as well. But those are a couple of little nuggets that I guess I been thinking about a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's really I think being as receptive to the understanding of the situation that you're in, taking that kind of not taking it personally and just taking it into context, and then understanding the best way to kind of optimize the opportunities and the value in those situations.
One interesting thing from me doing all these interviews that I've noticed is interviewing investors and then interviewing people that work at or own mining companies is the difference in the mindset. Because while you have a macro environment like this, when you have a company like Vizsla, at the end of the day, of course, you want your stock price to infinitely go up forever, but that doesn't happen. And so your focus often lends a lot more to the project and not the price when you're in a pre-production stage or moving towards a pre-production stage. So what's going on in regards to that? What's the latest with Vizsla?
Yeah, the price impacts us in the sense that we're shareholders first of all of the company. We're not employees. There's a big difference in mining companies where someone's an employee CEO versus a founder, and we care about the share structure. When you're moving a project towards construction, somebody needs to be diluted in order to do that. You can't do your goals, accomplish your goals without cash flow, without diluting something. So it's either diluting the project or an interest in the project, or diluting your equity position. And so we want to minimize the dilution on the equity because that's the lowest cost of capital and it maintains the most amount of upside. So the share price does matter to us, but fortunately the company's in good financial shape that we can go into 2023, accomplish all of our goals, have a huge amount of momentum with exploration, and likely ride out this kind of rough environment. So that's great, first of all. But what's really happened, and I know people really enjoy going through some of the the recent updates and the upside at Panuco in these interviews. So I've actually just finished a whole day of marketing meetings for talking to investment funds, and my message has been, well, not only today but for the weeks preceding as well, is that of course I could sit here and say Vizsla is the best deal out here because it's half the price that Craig and I bought $7 million of shares. Craig buying 90% 90% of that. But, buying millions and millions of dollars worth of stock at $250 last summer is what we did as a management team. And, it's at a discount from the financing that we did with Eric Sprott and Franklin Templeton when we made the discovery, when we didn't even own the project. But of course, now we own the project 100%. We're well financed. We are well on the track to multi-hundreds millions of ounces of resource at the project. And what I find is a real game changer is the recent developments at Copala. So we already know that Napoleon is a wonderful vein with a huge amount of upside to it, and we're going to continue to grow that. And that's going to be a major part of this upcoming resource. We already know that Tajitos was an excellent discovery, but this Copala vein and the fact that Copala, Tajitos, and Napoleon are all within a 500-meter radius of each other is a very important aspect here, because I think that the resource that Napoleon, Tajitos, and Copala can support, plus the orientation of the Copala vein, which is a flat line structure versus a vertical structure, really lends itself to an increased scope of throughput versus what we had originally contemplated at the project. It's clearer and clearer to me every day, and I'm very, very confident in this to say that Vizsla will be Mexico's largest new producer there. It's bigger than anything else I've seen. The Copala vein is continuing to grow. It's already 600 meters by 400 meters by 12 meters average thickness, and the grade is excellent there. So it's a game changer. The market doesn't understand that. It's a different style of mining because it's not vertical, and it's going to, all of it together will support, I believe, a very sizable mining operation that will be, one of Mexico's leading producers. And the best part about that is that it's only 5% of the overall vein strike of the district. So there's 20 times more veins for us to go and explore in terms of strike length. So we're just getting started here. Vizsla has never been in a better position fundamentally with the resources. We're marching it towards that production pathway there. And, these are the times where you look at the chart and you think, I should have bought it at $1.29 Canadian or $1 US, when it's, 10 times that amount in the improved market. So that's the message that we've been telling investors. And, I think it's an incredible time to buy. And, even today we put out news about a new vein that's outside of that western part of the project. And, the share price went down, even though we put out, 6.5 meters of near kilo material, which, it's such a, anytime that you have a market like this, it's so ridiculous, it doesn't make sense. It's a great time to be buying stock.
Yeah, well, I myself am getting excited here, starting to load up the cannon a little bit. Silver, uranium stocks. It's all going to be pretty interesting to see what unfolds here over the next 12 months. I want to thank you for coming on today, my friend, and I want to thank you for listening today. Be sure to check out Vizsla Silver website, which I'll link in the description and pin to the comments. I'll link Mike's Twitter and Vizsla's Twitter as well, so you can check that out if you're on Twitter. Smash the like button on this video. Give us a comment down below. Let us know what you think of today's episode. Mike, I want to thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Jake. It's always a pleasure. It's great to see you, and thank you to your listeners too.
All right. Have a wonderful day. We want to thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon.